Channel open. Welcome back to WeeklyTrek, a proud member of the Tricorder Transmissions podcast network and presented in partnership with TrekCore.com. I am your host, Alex Perry.
What's today's date? The date.
Today's show was recorded on March 31st, 2022, and is current through the Star Trek Picard episode Fly Me to the Moon, so beware of spoilers. And if you are in one of the regions where any of the Star Trek shows have not yet aired and you are trying to stay spoiler-free, be sure to check the episode article on TrekCore for time codes for each of our stories tonight in order to avoid them. All right, let's get into the show.
Good day, Voyager, and welcome to A Briefing with Neelix. It's a catchy title, isn't it?
WeeklyTrek is a regular news show covering the biggest stories from the Star Trek franchise. We are in a new golden age of Star Trek. There are 5 television shows in production, possibly more on the way, and enough merchandise to fill the Bajoran wormhole. So stick with me and I'll help you sort the real facts from a lot of the Dominion propaganda that you'll find online. But I can't do this alone, and my guest this week is returning guest and co-host of the Shore Leave podcast, right here on the Tricorder Transmissions podcast network. It's Marina Kravchuk. Marina, welcome back to WeeklyTrek.
It's so great to be back. Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. And oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about.
Oh, yes, we do. Most importantly of which is, this is our preview week episode for Star Trek Mission Chicago. So who else could I have on such an auspicious occasion as this than our convention maven herself to talk to us about everything we've got coming up at Mission Chicago. But Marina, before we get to that, you know the drill. I want to know something that's got you excited about Star Trek at the moment. What's got you moving at Warp 10?
Well, obviously, Mission Chicago. That's the one thing that has been on my mind for the past probably couple of months, especially once, things started to finally get moving in terms of announcements and guests and protocols and this and that. So that's definitely up there. And then, of course, obviously Star Trek Picard, because my goodness, just hitting it out of the park every single week so far. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm absolutely loving Star Trek Picard season 2. It's not perfect, right? The last couple of episodes have not kind of been as great as the first 3 were, but I'm still really enjoying them. And I would say I am enjoying this season of Star Trek probably more than any other live action season of Star Trek I've watched since Enterprise went off the air.
Oh, that's high marks.
Yeah. And I think it's 2 things for me. One, it's really fun, actually. Of course, it's a really serious season and there's lots of sort of serious themes, but so far the season has been a lot of fun. And I think too, and I hate to dwell on this because it's such like a, nerdy Star Trek fan thing to get wrapped up in. I just feel extremely comfortable with it. I mean, I know that, like last week there was the big hoo-ha and to-do about, why did Guinan not recognize Picard from the events from Time's Arrow? And I will admit, the first time I watched the episode, I got to the end of it and I was like, what the hell? Why not?
I got lucky because I watched and then almost immediately after I was finished, I came across David Mack's explanation. And I was like, you know what? Very cool. That makes total sense. So I completely missed out on the whole thing. And then I discovered, that Twitter was as usually aflame. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I wish everybody else, kind of had this person who really knows what they're talking about, kind of at least giving you an idea of what the explanation could be.
Yeah. And once I came up with the explanation for myself too, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I understand that. But like, aside from really that, I'm loving the way that the show is sort of confidently drawing upon many different elements of the Star Trek canon, right? Like it just feels very Star Trek-y and like, it is a true successor to the 24th century shows of yore. And I'm just really liking that about it. Even though it's the voyage home told over the series of a season and they're in 2024 and I don't think they're going back to the 25th century anytime soon. I mean, maybe in the penultimate episode of the season, but I think we're going to spend the rest of this season in the 21st century. And I remember when the trailers first started coming out and it was like, oh yeah, okay, this could be the voyage home and they're going back in time. And my guess is they're probably going to spend most of the season there. I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, right? But like they have definitely been taking the Star Trekiest advantage that they possibly can of setting it in the 21st century with Guinan and a supervisor and, all these other bits too.
I'm loving all the little, the production production side of things. Everything so far, I mean, those people who don't follow David Blass, please do on Twitter, because, it's the person who came out of Trek. He's deeply, every little, like all these little things that pop up that you see somewhere behind a sign on the wall or whatever. And it's all connected to the golden era, if you want, the TNG, Voyager, Deep Space Nine. It's all these little references. I'm just, every single time I discover one of these little things, like, yeah, it serves the story actually, but I also just get a ridiculous sort of like, yes, it's a fan service to a certain degree, but I get just this wonderful tingle. I mean, the most recent thing, obviously, everybody's kind of having a lot of fun today with that phone number.
Yeah, right.
Call the phone number. I don't know how long it's going to be there, but my goodness, what a treat.
Yeah, it's like, and that's just a fun thing that they did, and it sort of enhances your enjoyment of the whole overall
and it's if you think about it, it's just such a little inconsequential thing. Like, it doesn't really do anything, but you dial the number, and I did this actually during work today twice, and I just was laughing out loud because it's just such a great little touch to make this experience really come alive.
All right, well, with that, let's turn to the week's top stories.
There's a war going on, and I'm a reporter.
The 4K remaster of the Star Trek The Motion Picture Director's Edition has a release date, a theatrical screening date in the United States, and a forthcoming Blu-ray release. Yes, beginning April 5th, 2022, that's first contact day to you and me, Star Trek The Motion Picture Director's Edition will begin streaming exclusively on Paramount+. And then on May 22nd, 23rd, and 25th, theaters across the United States will be showing the movie, which has been remastered in 4K since the previous and only DVD release of the film back in 2001. The movie will also premiere at Star Trek Mission Chicago later this week, so if you're attending the convention, you can get a look at it on the big screen there. And lastly, Paramount Plus will only be the exclusive home for the Motion Picture Director's Edition for a few months. A Blu-ray release has been announced for September, and we expect international home media release will probably follow around the same time if previous Blu-ray release strategies are held to here. Marina, are you excited for the premiere of the 4K remastering of Star Trek The Motion Picture Director's Edition?
I am. And not so much because I'm a collector of physical media. I actually not really am. But
it's probably the only thing you don't collect, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do have some, like, it's sort of like a little bit of this, a little bit of that type of thing. But I am excited that it's coming back, to the big screen. I haven't seen the motion picture. It just so happens, like, I was kind of trying to remember when was the last time that I sat down and I watched the motion picture in its entirety.
Yeah.
And it must be, I'm probably coming up close to a decade.
And have you ever seen the director's edition?
When I was at a friend's house.
Yeah.
Yes. But, that it was just, I don't think I actually watched the entire thing. It's just like, people circulating, having fun, talking during the party, that sort of thing. So I am excited about the fact that, I'm going to have my ticket and I'll sit down, and I'm actually curious to see how many people will show up at the local theater and just, have a track experience at a theater, which, does not happen very often right now. We have mostly stuff on the small screen. Mm-hmm. So that I'm certainly looking forward to greatly.
Yeah. It's funny. I've probably done 3 or 4 of these stories over the last few months about the Motion Picture Director's Edition, and I have seen some of it, but not all of it. Is the closest I've come to actually finding somebody who's seen it too, which I think speaks to why it's great that it's getting a re-release on Paramount Plus and it's a 4K upgrade. The trailer looks great. They released a trailer.
Thrusters ahead, Mr. Sulu. Take us out. Mr. Spock. Every minute brings that object closer to Earth. I need you.
I am convinced we are inside a living machine.
Shall I go to battle station, sir?
Insatiable curiosity.
Spock, you haven't changed a bit. You're just as warm and sociable as ever. I hope we we got this one off to a good start.
I hope so, too.
The trailer is great, obviously very exciting. This is an audio medium, so you couldn't see any of the fantastic visuals from the movie, but take my word for it if you haven't seen the trailer yet, or, at this point, you're only a couple of days away from actually seeing the movie itself, so maybe hold on. And I think it's obviously really great that it's releasing on Paramount Plus in 4K, but the 4K release is Paramount Plus is not available in 4K through every mechanism through which you can get Paramount Plus yet, so it is really nice that it's also going to be, again, only for fans in the US on the movie screen as well, so that, I was just talking to David Fain, the producer of the movie today. My interview with him will be on TrekCore probably in a couple of days. And, he was sort of talking about how when they made the movie, when they did the director's edition, both back in 2001 and again now, they made it really with the intention of it being shown on the big screen. I mean, obviously, it being on the small screen was the only way they managed to get it done in 2001. And that's the primary mechanism folks will get access to it now. But it's designed to be a theatrical motion picture. And so it is very cool that at Mission Chicago later this week, and then at cinemas across the country in May, there will be an opportunity to see it actually on the big screen.
I was going to mention that, it's nice that it's going to be part of the convention experience.
Yeah.
So far, well, let's see, pretty much every convention we've had so far post-pandemic, starting with Vegas, we did get a screening of some sort. So it's almost kind of becomes a thing that, one could expect from a Trek event, to have some sort of screening, whether it's just showing an episode somewhere in the hotel room to a full-blown feature presentation, if you will.
Well, after the Star Trek Strange New Worlds teaser release a couple of weeks ago, the hype machine for the upcoming May 5th release of the show is now really starting to get underway. This week, Paramount released a series of 30-second character trailers focusing on the new characters for the show, including Communications Officer Cadet Uhura.
Welcome aboard, everyone. Cadet Uhura, very happy to have you aboard.
Glad to be here.
Cadet's gotta be pretty impressive to make the cut. I hear you speak 12 languages.
37.
Wow. What's he saying?
Universal Translator isn't processing it. Uhura, do something. That's not how linguistics works.
Starfleet would be fortunate to have an officer like you.
Who knows where I'll end up? I guess I'm still searching.
Security Chief La'an Noonien Singh.
Captain Pike, Lieutenant La'an Noonien Singh, Chief of Security.
Welcome back and welcome aboard, everyone.
When I was a kid, I was the only one to survive. I know what it feels like to be alone.
You are
Scared. But I can't just keep running. That's just who I am.
Con Officer Erica Ortegas.
Erica, take us closer, please.
How close do you want to get? First date or third date?
Blind date.
Proceeding with caution, sir.
We have incoming.
You know how you used to brag you're going to be the best pilot ever to graduate the academy?
What's your point, sir?
Time to prove it, Lieutenant.
Now we're talking.
Chief Engineer Hemmer.
Storm's only getting closer, Enterprise.
Transporter room to engineering. Hemmer, I'm losing them.
Try it now.
How did you?
I am a genius.
Hemmer may not be able to see, but his other senses compensate.
Compensate? They are superior. You humans waste so much life worrying about death. The Enar believe the end only comes once you have fulfilled your purpose.
So what was your purpose?
To fix what is broken.
The Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Mabenga.
What is this noxious paste you're applying to our skulls?
Ground sea action. Trust me, this will become Federation standard. Eventually. I am Chief Medical Officer on the flagship of Starfleet. Prejudice has kept people from helping each other for centuries.
Doctor!
Disease and suffering are good. We're things of the past. I am a physician. There must be another way.
and Nurse Christine Chapel.
This is Nurse Chapel.
Welcome to Enterprise. Sounds like you're just the person for the job.
What job?
Gonna mess with your genome.
Is it safe?
Almost every time.
I thought you might need to discuss your feelings. I feel I should have seen that coming.
It's good to get mad sometimes.
I applaud your performance.
Don't thank me. I know I'm good at my job.
And if they've released any more since I recorded this Thursday night, then there's more of them, but that's the 6 that we have at the moment that we released it. And as you can hear from the short trailer clips, right, again, can't see them, but lots of great views of the upcoming episodes, and these characters themselves seem really, really interesting. Marina, what's been your reaction to seeing all these new character shorts and glimpses of Star Trek Strange New Worlds?
Well, first of all, again, just how beautiful the show looks. I mean, we see just the little snippets, obviously. We don't know what's going on and everything, but it's just how gorgeous everything looks, how organic. You know, the costumes, the everything on that you see on the screen. You definitely see sort of this continuation from Discovery style production values to Strange New Worlds. So there is this visual continuity, if you will. Plus, it's just fun to finally see, you know, that we've had the cast announcements how long ago? Finally, we actually get to see them in costume and doing, you know, in character and doing their things. So this is super exciting. I cannot wait. Again, going back to Star Trek Chicago, we will have the Strange New Worlds, and we'll talk about this later panel. You know, I'm kind of hoping maybe we'll see something else, something more. Maybe they will show us a teaser. We'll see. But very, very exciting to see. I cannot wait till May 5th. It's going to be exciting to see the premiere.
Yeah, I mean, we're still missing a full 2-minute trailer, and I think I feel convinced at this point that that's coming at Mission Chicago.
It makes sense. It totally makes sense. I mean, you have an official event. Hopefully, a big crowd shows up. Which, I mean, considering how much interest there is apparent online, I would assume so. So I am really looking forward to this.
Yeah, and I am really liking, you know, obviously with all trailers, it's sort of like a, you know, best foot forward, just to tease you, just to excite you type thing. But I have really enjoyed the kind of looks at the sets. I've enjoyed the kind of short snippets of the character dynamics. I particularly thought that the introduction of Hemmer, who I guess is the chief engineer of the Enterprise, they don't kind of specify it, but it's from context clues, it certainly seems that way. He seems like a really cool character. M'Benga, obviously, it's really interesting to kind of get more on that character since, you know, he was fairly sort of lightly drawn in his appearances in the original series.
How kick-ass is Nurse Chapel?
Oh yeah,
I totally did not expect.
And that one, which just
great.
Came out like an hour ago, which was great. Yeah. So like, and that Nurse Chapel one is also great. So like, I'm loving the little snippets of dialogue we've gotten so far. They feel very natural. They feel fun. They feel, you know, sort of peppy and not overly serious. I'm sure there'll be serious elements to the show, but it's nice that it does feel like there is a lightness to the show, at least in these promotional materials.
Yeah.
And I'm really liking the look of the interior of the ship as well.
Yeah, very, somebody online mentioned, and it actually skips my mind where, so it definitely was on Twitter. Somebody actually said that very TOS colors. So that there's that shift in brightness.
Right.
So very, very nice looking. Oh, speaking of this little snippets that we've been seeing, I like the way they did them. Like, because I was trying to kind of gauge, you know, we see this ominous cloud there and then in the background, we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But the way they structured all these 30 seconds is that you literally get an introduction, because in multiple of them, you actually see, you know, Captain Pike saying something like, well, welcome aboard, or, you know, this is a great place for you, or something like that. So like we literally just get the welcome for the character, and that's it. So it is a true teaser in every single case.
But like a teaser that makes you want to actually watch the show.
Absolutely.
Which is, you know, like, what more can you ask for? So yeah, really excited for that. Yeah, it's funny, you know, looking at the sets, this thought just came to me. It really is kind of like a blending between the original series design aesthetic and actually the Star Trek 2009 design aesthetic, right? In the way that it does feel quite futuristic and modern, but it's got all of those kind of like TOS-y touches to it that you would want to see, right? Like I noticed in the Hemmer one, there's rocker switches, and the buttons are all brightly colored buttons on the panel, you know, which is exactly the kind of thing that, you know, you want to see on this Enterprise. I guess the one thing I'm like, so I love the bridge, I love sickbay, I really like the look at engineering. engineering. The one thing where I'm just like, oh, I wish they did something ever so slightly more TOS-y is the corridors. I love the Enterprise corridors. It's my favorite part of the original series set tour up in Ticonderoga is the corridors rather than any of the individual rooms. It does look like the corridors are a sort of a whitewash redress of the Discovery corridors, which is a bit of a shame because in the kind of shots we've seen of them so far, the corridors don't seem to kind of like match the aesthetic of the bridge and some of the other locations on the ship. But I'm sure I'll get over that very quickly. But like that bridge, I mean, it was great in Discovery Season 2. It looks even better now in Strange New Worlds.
Alex, we can kind of think about this, that, you know, maybe they're hiding the best views of the corridors for now.
Saving it for last.
Yes.
Give the people what they want, which is the sort of orange, like mechanical looking things kind of planted on the walls.
Yeah.
I just want like one of those orange kind of grill things just randomly separating two sections. That's all I'm asking for.
It's coming. It's coming. I'm sure they're just hiding the best views of the corridors for the premiere.
Yeah, so I think a full trailer's coming later this week, but we sort of have gone from 0 to 60 on Strange New Worlds kind of hype, and that's been really nice to see because it definitely is one where I think even going into this week, lots of folks were like, oh, okay, we got a 1 minute teaser, but like this thing's a little over a month away, and we really, Paramount doesn't seem to be doing a lot to kind of like hype it up, and now they really seem to be hyping it up, and that will sort of lead into this panel that's coming in Chicago, which will have Anson Mount and Ethan Peck and Rebecca Romaine will be there, and Celia Gooding will be there, and as will Keith Goldsman and Henry Alonso Myers, the showrunners for the show. So I think they're bringing the big guns. Only Anson is doing autographs and photo ops out of that group. The rest just seem to be coming maybe only to do the panel, but it should still be a really big event. And I would say, if you're going to Mission Chicago, and we'll talk about this in a second, read part Not Like Creation and having a seat for everybody. So if you have a panel you're particularly interested in, I would maybe plan to go and see the panel or two beforehand in order to make sure that you have a seat for the one that you really want to see. Well, good news for international fans who have been patiently waiting for the release of Star Trek Prodigy. The show is starting to roll out in other countries beyond the US and Canada this spring. The show is expected to debut in the United Kingdom on Nickelodeon sometime in April, with Nickelodeon releases on April 18th in France, Spain, Portugal, Belgium, Central and Eastern Europe, and Africa. And he is hoping the rest of Europe and Asia will get the show soon. Marina, did you enjoy the first half of Star Trek Prodigy Season 1?
Yeah. My God, there are no words. It's beyond what I expected, honestly. I mean, I was going to watch it just because Kate's in it. Sure. Let's be frank. I'm a big fan. But it just completely blew my mind when I saw the premiere at New York Comic Con last year. It was just, the entire place was raising the roof because everybody loved it. And then, the visuals and the story and the characters. And it certainly is, it's nice that finally the rest of the world can catch up with this because we're still technically in the first season, but we already had one break. Right now we're in the second break of the season. So it's kind of like, I want the stuff to start happening, but obviously it's not going to be happening until I'm guessing probably the Strange New Worlds rolls out. Yeah. It's all very confusing the way the schedule is working out now that we have so much wonderful content. But yeah, I'm certainly excited for all of our fans outside of the United States who are finally going to be able to watch this. And I don't think we have the date for UK though, right? They did say it's going to be April, but they haven't released the actual date yet. That's
right. Yeah. First of all, Paramount sucks at international distribution, right? I mean, that's been a long-running theme on this show, and I think it'll be a long-running theme for the foreseeable future. It's great that Prodigy's finally making out there onto Nickelodeon. Of course, I'll imagine if you're an international fan and you listen to my show, I'm going to roll the dice and venture a guess you might have found another way to watch Prodigy in the interim. But if you have been one of those very good law-abiding fans who has been patiently waiting for the show, it is coming, at least if you're in one of those countries or regions that I mentioned, and that will be in April. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, I'm really hoping that they get round to launching Paramount Plus in the rest of these countries soon, because if you go and listen to the Weekly Disney podcast or the Weekly Wars podcast or the Name Your weekly Netflix show podcasts for a major franchise here, they don't talk about this stuff because if it's a Disney Plus show, it launches at the same time worldwide all at once because Disney Plus is in most countries at this point and they launch everything at the same time. There's not even this like 24-hour rubbish that Paramount does with Paramount Plus in the US and then releasing it in Canada and the rest of the world. It's like, nope, if it comes out Thursday morning, well, I guess if for the Disney Plus shows, it's Wednesday morning, it comes out Wednesday morning. Everywhere. It comes out Wednesday morning everywhere. And why Paramount can't seem to like inch closer towards doing that just continues to boggle my mind. But hey, it's great they're finally getting it out there. And, you know, I mean, I think the big elephant in the room is like, what about Strange New Worlds? You know, so far, no international distribution plans have been announced for Strange New Worlds. It's now only a month away. And with each of these sort of character trailers they've been doing, you know, they tweet the character trailer and it's on Paramount Plus, and then they always do a reply underneath. It's like Strange New Worlds will be on Bell TV in Canada. Further international distribution has yet to be announced. And like the Twitter account's just getting slaughtered for those tweets. And they've now made 6 of them because there's 6 of these character teasers, because I think fans are, you know, this is something that lots of fans have been really excited for. And, you know, Paramount Plus was supposed to have launched by now, right? Like they were talking about early 2022 for the UK. Well, it's now, I guess, not until the end of July or something like that, which is going to put it after Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 1 has ended in the US. And who knows if they're going to do the same kind of release strategy they did for Star Trek Discovery season 4. They've not announced that yet. So, you know, just another really frustrating situation for international fans.
I don't know if I'm being overly optimistic. I'm kind of hopeful that, you know, with Chicago convention happening, maybe we'll get more information because we're literally right there almost exactly at a month time.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll have it as part of the Q&A panel discussion. You know, this is what's happening, you know, obviously talking with the actors, but perhaps the creatives will be able to clarify what's going on if they can, because obviously, you know, that's not dependent on them.
Right. God, you'd hope so. I mean, you'd hope so. It's like, come on, guys. Like, we want to talk about enjoying this show and not have to talk about how annoying it is that certain fans get access to it and certain fans don't. It's not fun for anybody anymore. So let's get on with it. All right. And lastly this week, Star Trek Mission Chicago is coming up in just a few days, as we have been talking about. The new official Star Trek convention hosted by Reed Pop has seen a flurry of guest and panel announcements in the last couple of weeks in the run-up to the show and has become a pretty great-looking event, actually. Guests announced for the show include Alexander Siddig, Annie Wershing, Anson Mount, Anthony Montgomery, Anthony Rapp, Blue Del Barrio, Chase Masterson, Connor Trenier, David Ajala, Dominic Keating, Doug Jones, Evan Evagora, George Takei, Ian Alexander, Issa Briones, Jack Quaid, James Cromwell, Kate Mulgrew, Kenneth Mitchell, Mary Chieffo, Michelle Hurd, Nana Visitor, Natalia Nugalich, Noah Ababat-Katz, Robin Curtis, Sonequa Martin-Green. I guess there's a question about whether she might have cancelled. Tawny Newsome, Walter Koenig, Will Wheaton, and William Shatner.
And on top of that, don't forget our scientists.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I always like to point it out because once they became a fixture at conventions, you can never go without Dr. Aaron McDonald and Dr. Mohammed Noor because they just rock.
Absolutely. And in addition, there will be big panels for Discovery, Lower Decks, which will feature series creator Mike McMahon, who's promised a look at season 3, Picard, where showrunner Terry Matalas, who won't be there but still seemed to hint on Twitter that maybe some cool news is coming, Prodigy, which will feature one of the Hageman brothers, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we get a quick glimpse at season 1.5, and Strange New Worlds, which, as we were talking about, will feature a number of the cast and crew, and also, as we were talking about, I think a full trailer for Strange New Worlds is probably a near certainty.
In addition, something to add, there was actually the Hageman brothers Twitter did post, and hold on, I actually took a snapshot of this on my phone because I got so excited. They said, we believe there will be some unseen footage shown. Not to be missed. So there was actually a little hint. So yeah, the Prodigy panel is not to be missed. Oh, something else. Another guest that, you know, and this is an unfortunate thing that they have this sort of disbalance between, you know, what shows up on the page versus what you see on Epic's page with the photo ops and autographs versus what you kind of see if you have notifications on your social media like Twitter or Facebook.
Yep.
Jackie Cox is also going to be there.
Yes.
that is also an absolute must to mention because she is great fun. So it's going to be, I believe, the very first drag show at an official licensed Star Trek event. So remember.
Yeah, in addition to the big show panels, there'll be the Star Trek The Motion Picture Director's Edition screening, which will be on the big screen. And yeah, Marina, as you said, ReedPop have partnered with Lambda Quadrant and arranged a special convention event with Jackie Cox, the RuPaul Drag Race superstar. That's, of course, also on top of the usual licensee panels, fan panels, debuts of new merchandise at the convention, which we're expecting from a couple of licensees. Very similar to the kind of things that we've come to expect at Star Trek Las Vegas, but of course now have moved over to the official convention. All right, so Marina, there's obviously been, it's ReedPop. They've done this once before, right? Star Trek Mission New York in 2016 for the 50th anniversary. But there's obviously different convention runner, different style of convention from what you and I are used to for the Creation Entertainment events at STLV. In terms of like how you and I have experienced the run up to this event, what grade do you think you would give ReedPop at this stage for Mission Chicago?
Finally seeing the full guest list, and I'm assuming it's probably already the actual complete list. Maybe they will add someone else. As you know, convention scheduling generally is very fluid up to and actually as the convention is actually ongoing, as we know, especially right now in pandemic times.
Yep.
But it certainly went from kind of C-ish into B's, I would say, because this is certainly a very, very nice guest lineup. They have coverage across the board. Yes, I think I would love to see many more people from some of the legacy series. Like, for example, we have a TNG represented only by Will Wheaton.
Yeah.
But whatever the reasons are, it could be just who managed to get the actors first. I don't know if people know, there's actually Fan Expo Philadelphia happening the same weekend, and the bulk of TNG actors actually appearing there. So it could be just that Philadelphia managed to snag them first. So in regards to the guest list, I'm going to say this is a very, very solid one. And it's roughly in the numbers that I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be somewhere between 25 to 45.
It feels very similar to the guest list for Mission New York in terms of numbers.
Yeah. And they certainly managed to get some surprises. Specifically for me, I'm most excited about James Cromwell.
Yep.
I've never seen him at a convention before.
Me neither.
One of my friends said that the last time he saw them, and he's been going to conventions for a while, was probably over 20 years ago. So this is a very rare appearance and very, very exciting. So I already have my autograph ticket and my photo op ticket. So I'm really looking forward to that. In terms of something that was kind of hinted at when they released the information on the tickets, but so far, I mean, except for we know we're gonna have the screening of the motion picture. There were kind of hints that there will be some sort of separately ticketed special events, and it's not very clear what exactly that was supposed to be. Is that supposed to be special presentations, or is it some sort of performances? Or obviously, there's like nothing, and I don't see where it would fit in the schedule as it is right now. So that part is kind of very wibbly wobbly. I think it's still kind of in the C grade. But you know what? At this point, I don't particularly want to kind of offer a judgment or opinion before the event even started. I'm sure, once we arrive and see what's what and how it all fits together, how it compares to at least Mission New York. I would not compare this to SLV. They're far too different in styles. Then we can kind of talk and see and hopefully provide some feedback to ReedPop, for whatever the next convention, whenever the next convention is going to be for them. Incidentally, we don't even know if it's going to be Chicago again or it will indeed travel announced originally when they said that they were going to do the missions conventions again. We'll see. So I am excited about the guests. I'm looking forward to the panels most certainly. In terms of panels, I do have a lot of words about panels. Unfortunately, I am not a fan of the Comic-Con structuring. And I don't mean multiple things happening. I mean, every single convention, even if it's a fan-run convention, for the most part, will have multiple things happening at the same time. So you will have a conflict regardless. But the kind of staggering that they do, I don't think it fits with a single franchise event because at this point it's kind of rough when you know that the potentially main theater, chances are there may be lines and there may be issues getting in. It's so far unclear just how close we're to selling out, if at all, how many people are actually going to show up. The website for McCormick Convention Center says that the predicted attendance is 8,000 people. Is it going to be 8,000? Who knows? Difficult to say.
Right.
But it's this sort of thing when you
that's a lot. That feels like a STLV level attendance. And I don't know that for the first one of these, it's going to get that.
Yeah, it's kind of I'm trying to remember what the numbers were for Mission New York. It's probably kind of like, it's a good number for this type of event. I mean, we're not going to be something as extraordinary as, 20,000, 30,000,
sure.
mid-sized Comic-Cons. This is not exactly, I mean, it's a single franchise event again. But the staggering of the panels, it's frustrating when it's like, okay, there's going to be James Cromwell Q&A, and about 20 minutes of that gets encroached by a different panel.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite so certain that you can kind of run out, go to the other place, check this out, and if anything, come back. It might not work.
Certainly not for main stage stuff, I don't think. That was not the experience in New York.
And some of this stuff, I'm actually curious, like, how is it going to look? Like, it's one thing that's frustrating for the fans, but something that hit me that on Saturday night, you have in the late afternoon, you have the Picard panel. So you're going to have the cast members and the creatives there. And then midway through that panel, Kate Mulgrew is doing a Q&A and book reading on the main stage.
Yeah.
So how is that going to look when you're going to have, like, suddenly part of the people are going to rush out? I mean, I realize we all have our favorites, but, the captain panels tend to be pretty full with a lot of interest of most attendees. So, like, I would hate, like, can you imagine, like, you're an actor and, obviously the adoring public, and all of a sudden... half of the room gets up and leaves.
Your door in public leaves. Yeah, right.
So there are some unfortunate conflicts, and of course, it's just impossible not to have a conflict. But at the same time, it's almost it's kind of heartbreaking. There are a couple of panels on Sunday where it's like it's literally happening at the same time. When I want to be there, like a couple of my friends are going to be doing a panel, and it's running exactly parallel to the Women of Trek that's going to be hosted by Nana Visitor. So, like, those sort of things are heartbreaking again, because you really want to be in multiple places at the same time.
Right.
So what are you looking forward to? I'm actually curious, because I can certainly, yell the names out, and as I said, James Cromwell, I'm just amazed that they talked him into coming. What are you looking forward to the most?
I am really excited for just being there, right? Like, my last convention was STLV. Granted, it was STLV 2021, which only was, 8 months ago, but still, it's been a while. I'm excited for the fact that it's the official convention, right? Like, I missed about STLV 2021, a lot of those kind of official panels and stuff. And I'm really pleased that, that Paramount are doing this and that we're going to get that. I think some of the licensee panels are a little thinner than I would have liked. A couple of the kind of licensees who are in the who are going to be in the vendors room, like XO6, it would have been interesting if maybe they had done a panel on some of their work and, like, the stuff they've been doing. So that's all really interesting. So I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that. But I mean, they've put together, big panels for each of the big shows throughout right now. It seems like there's going to be some kind of news or something coming out of each of those. I think it sort of really is, right? Like, take First Contact Day, the online event they did last year, and then kind of like spread it out over a 3-day period in terms of that level of news. I sort of made this theory on this show a couple of weeks ago that I was like, I think there's some massive announcement, right? Some really big thing coming. I don't know, looking at the schedule, that I necessarily feel that that's the case anymore. I mean, outside of, Trailer for Strange New Worlds, look at season 3 of Lower Decks, etc.
I feel that the schedule is a lot more strategic than it was for, say, Star Trek Mission New York.
Right.
Star Trek Mission New York they threw in everything, the sink in the water and everything you can think of, because you had legacy stuff, you had, whatever limited new stuff that was ongoing, which is primarily comics and books, but you had anything you can think of. You had the writers, you had the background people, you had, all the big stars, but at the same time, it was a little bit more, I don't know, well-rounded, if you will.
Yeah.
This time around, we do have a little bit of everything. I mean, like, as I mentioned before, we certainly have actors covering pretty much every series, but you do have the schedule punctuated with this with a spike, so you have something going on, and then you have the Prodigy panel, something going on, then you have a Discovery panel, something going on, then you have Picard panel, and so it is more strategic. It feels like, as an official event, obviously they have to present what's happening right now, and right now we have all these new series happening, so that's what's going to be the attention they wanted to concentrate the attention on. And then compared to Mission New York, incidentally, it's a little bit more relaxed, I'm going to say, because we have roughly 3 things, three tracks, if you will,
right?
The main stage and then those 2 other rooms, whereas Mission New York had 5.
Yeah, there was
So
a
that
lot.
was it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, plus on top of that, you have the photo ops and the autographs.
Right.
So it felt quite insane, I have to say, in 2016. It was incredibly exciting, but there was just no way to hit even a quarter of what they were offering. There was just so much going on. And again, Comic-Con style seating did not exactly allow to get up, go look at something else, and then come back because somebody else would take your spot. So this time around, we shall see. I already created the schedule. I admit I already have my spreadsheet up and filled out. It's going to be exciting. Something that I am very curious for, and I'm kind of hopeful that maybe they will, this last remaining week, that they will finally make an announcement, an exhibit. We got
Yes. Good point.
My last event was just literally a month ago at the Star Trek cruise, and we got a big surprise. We had the 4 costumes from the Strange New Worlds. So I'm kind of hoping, well, maybe there's going to be more.
Oh, there's got to be, right? There's got to be,
because Picard's finished with at least second season's done. So maybe they can bring some of the props, maybe, so we can take a look at the stuff closely. Maybe they will, as a preview to Strange New Worlds, maybe we'll get a bit more than just 4 costumes.
Yeah.
That would be certainly amazing. And then, of course, that's that remaining thing, what those other separately ticketed events are, like what exactly that's supposed to be.
Right. If that's even happening. I mean, it does feel a little bit like, just in the way that for this show, the badges were mailed out late. The URLs that are on the activate your badge, download the mobile app thing were not live and still are not live, now.
And it's happening at some point, but it's everything is kind of
right.
I mean,
it feels to me like they planned for something maybe a bit bigger or more ambitious than what they've ended up with. And I wonder if the separate ticketed events is something that maybe we'll see that next year, but maybe not this year.
Yeah. Well, let me see if they still have the description, like the ticketing. I think it's the usual.
But their website is so bad in terms of updating that their guest list is still the original guest list.
Yeah, they finally caught up. So right now everything is the same. And as a matter of fact, the only place where you do see that Dr. Aaron is the official guest is on the website. So there's some of the stuff that finally got announced that a lot of people were looking forward to was, of course, the health and safety protocols, because that is certainly, and kudos to Repub, they actually do take this very seriously.
Yeah, it's pretty good, I think.
Yeah, when I went to New York Comic-Con, they had by far the most stringent policy for access to the convention floor that I've seen pretty much at any other event. There was an absolute 100% must for vaccination, and they were checking it. And I mean, the only people to get in with just a test were basically kids 12 years and younger. So obviously things have changed, thankfully. I'm trying to knock on something wooden around me.
Right.
But, things are easing up. Obviously, a lot of mandates are gone. But at the moment, the entry requirements is that everyone of age 5 and up has to provide either proof of full vaccination or a negative test. And of course, despite the fact that Chicago does not have the mask mandate, they do say that the wearing of some sort of, face covering is strongly recommended.
Yeah.
One of my friends, Heather Barker, she actually ran this very small poll on her Twitter account just to see, those folks who were coming to Chicago, what they felt like, what do you think you're going to wear? It's not required, but are you wearing a mask? And it's interesting to see that the vast majority of people said that they will either wear it at all times or mostly wear it. And I think there's like a 40-30% breakdown for both for each of the categories. So basically have over 70% of the people saying, yeah, I will follow some sort of, wear some sort of a mask and basically try to be very careful. Let's remember, for a lot of people, this is actually going to be a very first in-person convention event in 2-3 years,
right?
Which is, my heart goes out, and I actually cannot wait, because there are some of my friends coming who, I have not seen in person since probably August of 2019, which is completely scary. And
I know it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But hey, it's a couple of days away now, and we are very much looking forward to it. So we'll talk about, and I'm sure there will be a full debrief on Shore Leave once the convention's over. Yeah.
It's again, I have my thoughts. The way things kind of were rolling out, and I know I can see in the groups on Facebook of people commenting on Twitter how a certain degree of frustration with various aspects of how things were done. But at the same time, like, convention hasn't happened yet. We don't know how we could show up and have a completely brains blown by what we're going to see.
Right.
I am curious. I've been to McCormick before. It's a very nice convention center, very large convention center. Obviously, we're not occupying all of it, but it's going to be part of, I believe, the West building.
Yes.
And I can't wait. Are there going to be decorations? Are there going to be, I don't know, photo op, those spots like we used to have in Vegas where you just, stand on the transporter pad or, I don't know, hug a bunch of tribbles and have pictures taken. I'm curious. I can't wait to see what they're going to offer.
All right. Well, we've talked about the facts, and now let's speculate on what's going to happen in the future of Star Trek.
You make some very good points, Captain. But it's still all speculation and theory.
So each week, my guest and I give you a wish or theory we're nurturing about any of the shows or the future of the franchise. So Marina, let's hear your theory or wish for this week.
Well, you know what? At the rate that Picard is going, I'm actually starting to wonder, who else are we going to see this, this particular, like, it's, is it actually going to be someone, like, we got a new actor playing Guinan, but it's still Guinan, and we did get Whoopi Goldberg.
Who else is going Rain Robinson?
I don't know. You know what? It's going to sound kind of awful, but I actually would not mind to see either Worf or Geordi to show up. Like somebody else from the original TNG crew. Because, I keep thinking about it, the relationship that they all had, the 7 of them. Is it really possible, even with all the issues that Picard has had in his later years, that he would not be in touch with them? And that, and yet, like the first season kind of implied that he was just out there and just not. So I want to see, maybe it's going to be just like a brief thing, a cameo. It does not necessarily need to be some sort of huge part in whatever unfolding story that we have right now. But that's kind of my wish. I hope to see somebody else from TNG show up. I mean, it would be amazing if we actually got Dr. Crusher, but I have huge doubts that that's what is ever going to happen, unfortunately. But yeah, Worf and Geordi would work.
I think Dr. Crusher is going to happen. I think Geordi's going to happen. I think Worf's going to happen. And I think Riker and Troy
they keep hinting at that, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, there have been multiple interviews when they're like, at some point everybody's going to show up.
I don't know if it's going to be season 2, but I mean, I've kind of laid out this marker where I said the series finale of Star Trek Picard at the end of season 3, it's going to be a big team up, and you're going to get all 7. I mean, maybe Brent might be there playing one of the multitude of other Soongs, but that you will get at least 6 out of the 7, or maybe the 7, or maybe even the 8. Maybe they can even talk Will Wheaton to coming back for a day or two. That in that last episode, you're going to get them all back together on screen again. I feel I'm very convinced of that.
Well, we shall see. But for now, I'm telling you, every time this comes up in the interview, I'm like, are they being tongue-in-cheek, or
they're totally being tongue-in-cheek? Because here's the thing, right, too, about Gates, okay? So Gates gets asked fairly frequently, do you think you'll be coming to Star Trek Picard? Do you think you're going to do it? And at this point, she knows if she's in it or not, right? Like, they've wrapped filming. She either has filmed scenes for Star Trek Picard or not. And so any answer that she gives to that question that's anything other than, no, they did 3 seasons, I wasn't invited to show up to any of those during the whole 3 seasons, and now the show is over, so there's no place for me to show up anymore. Any answer other than a definitive no, to me, is automatically a yes, because that means that, because you're being coy about it, and any level of being coy about it, there's no reason to be coy about it if the answer's no, right? Rip the Band-Aid off, just say, you mean you're not under an NDA, right? You're not under any obligation to protect them from the fact that they screwed up and you aren't in it. So yeah, I think any answer that Gates gives, and I've felt this way for a few months now, because and she gave an answer, I think it was in January, which was really wishy-washy. And at that point I was like, I think that's a yes, because by now season 3 scripts must be written.
But was that before her voice appearance on Prodigy? Because I think it was before. So
it was before,
so she could have not be able to talk about that, and that was it.
Potentially, but the question was a very pointed one about Picard, I think.
I know. Well, I am hopeful. I am hopeful, because I just generally, I like her character. I love Gates herself. And for a number of my friends who are huge friends, I certainly hope that we will see. Well, as you said, it's going to be a treat if they actually do manage to have a meaningful reunion at the end of the show. It's going to be a nice bow at the end, if you will.
All right, let me give you my theory, because mine's Mission Chicago theory.
Okay, go ahead.
As well. Well, it's not a Mission Chicago theory. Mine is a Mission 2023 theory, which is, where will Mission 2023 be?
Oh, okay.
So I've never been to Star Wars Celebration, but I follow it a little bit because, it's also run by Repop. It's the same kind of deal. It's obviously much bigger than the Star Trek one is. Like, Star Wars Celebration sells out like instantly. It is to Star Wars fans as popular as the Star Trek cruise is to Star Trek fans, in terms of very limited ticket availability every year. It's a real rush to get your hands on them. So it's different in scale, but I am increasingly convinced, watching the way that Repop has rolled out Star Trek Mission Chicago, that they have taken their Star Wars Celebration playbook and done a find and replace for Star Trek and are running it. Star Wars Celebration happens in 3 cities, and it rotates around those 3 cities. 1, Chicago, 2, Orlando, and 3, Anaheim, California. And I am convinced that Mission Chicago, having started off the first year in Chicago, is then going to go to Anaheim, is then going to go to Orlando, is then going to go back to Chicago. And you're going to look at those 3 cities, right? Something up north, something down south, and something out west, because Repop obviously have the relationships with the venues. Where does Star Wars Celebration take place in Chicago? It takes place at the McCormick Place. And so I anticipate that we're going to see Star Trek Mission X jump around those 3 cities, the same as Star Wars Celebration does. And I don't know that, I guess I should have looked this up, because then I could have made this even more of a definitive prediction. I don't know the cadence of like Star Wars Celebration, what comes after Chicago, but I feel like it's going to be Anaheim next year. Yeah. So my guess is the Mission Convention 2023 is going to be a Star Trek Mission Anaheim convention.
It sounds very reasonable, actually. But I do wonder if they'll ever come back to New York. Now, nobody really knows how successful the convention was, right, in terms of production, the logistical side of things. But at the same time, they do have an in with Javits, because that's when New York Comic Con is every year.
Right.
So
but knows? Star Wars Celebration doesn't go there.
Yeah.
And that's a huge convention, right? Like, it's probably 2 or 3 times the attendance of whatever Star Trek Mission Chicago will be. And if that's not big enough for them to go to the Javits, I don't know.
Is the celebration always the same time of the year?
I don't know, actually. I think it is. It's normally around May time. Yeah, I think it normally is around May, because at least for the last few years.
Yeah, because there's always that additional factor, this whatever else is going on at the particular convention center during specific time of the year. It's like, I know some of the trade shows and exhibitions, those large events, they probably have this stuff booked years in advance. What's our little convention to do?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. So potentially 2023, we're going to have lots of things happening out west, because as you know, the Star Trek cruise is going to be out of LA next year. So interesting.
Well, and my theory is the big reason why I'm not jumping on the cruise, because I'm like, I don't want to have to go out west for the cruise and for Mission and for Star Trek Las Vegas.
But it's fun. Come on.
I know. Everybody keeps trying to talk me into getting on the cruise. You've all turned into cruise evangelists.
Yes, it's
Marina, you didn't even like the cruise the last time you went on it, and now you're a true gospel for it.
Well, actually, no, the Trek part of it, and that's actually, I was trying to kind of stress it, because ECP does incredible job. As a matter of fact, I would say in terms of programming and specifically customer service, the way they work, like the actual staff, the way they do stuff, they probably are the top. And then you have everybody else underneath. The cruise side of it is iffy, and that's considering that my sister and I, as it turned out, have very good sea legs. We have zero effect. Like, literally, first time we went, we brought a little pharmacy with us, basically, in case, you get sick, in case you get dizzy, nothing. And I feel awful for those of my friends who are going, because they absolutely love the cruise, but they suffer pretty tremendously every single time. This time around, it basically, I planned it sort of like where the cruise side of things was actually not that big of a factor, in terms of like we didn't actually do anything outside of the ship. We just completely concentrated on the actual event, and that worked out brilliantly. So if you're fine with if you don't have any issues, as far as again, seasickness, that sort of thing, it is certainly an event to experience, simply because the programming is quite unique to the cruise. You don't really have that in any of the land-based conventions.
Do you have a theory or a wish for Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, or Prodigy that you'd like to share? Tweet them to me at WeeklyTrek or email them to me at weeklytrek@thetricordertransmissions.com, and I might feature your theory in a future episode. Well, that's all the time we've got for this episode of Weekly Trek. Thank you so much to my guest, Marina Kravchuk, for joining me today. Marina, how can people contact you if they want to continue the conversation?
Thank you so very much for having me again. You can find me online. I'm on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram under my full name, and specifically Twitter, Instagram, I have the same handle at DracoRex. I'm one of the admins for the Star Trek Convention Experiences group, and as well as one of the admins for the unofficial Star Trek missions group. And you can find me as you already mentioned, you can find me on Shore Leave together with my co-host Jesse Okendo, where we talk and chat and gab. What other word can I say? Because we're a very chatty show, basically about the Star Trek events across both specifically Trek conventions and just in general Comic Cons and other events, which you can find both on Facebook under Shore Leave, your Star Trek Convention Community Podcast, and at Shore Leave on Twitter.
And you can find this show on Twitter at WeeklyTrek and me at Alexander T. Perry. And if you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast player of choice. And please check out some of the other great shows on the Tricorder Transmissions. And if you like our shows, please also consider becoming a Patreon of Tricorder, which you can find at patreon.com/the Tricorder Transmissions. And lastly, if you're looking for Star Trek news on the internet, I hope you will turn to trekcore.com. Well, thank you, Marina. Thank you to all of my listeners. And until next week, live long and prosper.
Keep trekking.